Well, it's another week, and inventory is still at historic lows.
Tell me about it.
Well, and we were having a conversation again this last week. We do a lot of conversations during the week, as you're getting to hear. And we started to consider what are the other options for buyers in this marketplace. So we thought, new construction. Why not talk about some of the reasons why you guys need to include us with every new construction decision?
Very true. And I think one of the first things that I want people to know is that when you walk into one of those model homes at a new construction community, you're meeting with a salesperson, and that salesperson is the one who ordinarily is going to walk you through the process of
great point.
ordering your
Yeah.
house, getting you through the contract to the end. The problem is that salesperson works for the builder.
That's very true.
So they represent their best interest, not necessarily your best interest. And so it's really important. I think that's the number one reason you want somebody on your side that's going to represent you and your best interest.
That's a great point.
The second thing is it's free to hire an agent for a new construction because the builder is the one to pay that commission to the agent. The trick of it is to take your agent with you or tell them you have an agent as soon as you start dialoguing with them. Some builders are different, Ray. I'm sure you could tell me more about that. But some builders have different policies, but it's becoming more and more standard that if a person doesn't say they have a realtor, then bringing them off after the fact is much harder.
Yeah, it's so true. And one of the things that I think that we can offer in that process and that representation is a review of basically just, including the sales contract, but other paperwork that the builders are using. And they're obviously creating this paperwork and training their salespeople to be very adept at convincing you that you should do it their way. And it's amazing to see how, as you review each of the builders' paperwork, that they differ from builder to builder. And I've had some experiences over the years in which I've realized that there are some basic ingredients in our typical detached home, multi-family home resale contract that differ. And one of those points that we were describing this last week is the appraisal contingency. And I had a situation some years ago in which I represented on a fairly expensive home, represented buyers. And as we were going through the paperwork, the sales contract with the new home agent, we realized there was not an appraisal contingency within the body of that sales contract, which is fairly typical when you work with builders, new home construction. And it ended up, and my stories, they can be long, so I'll shorten it to say the appraisal came in low when it was ordered. And we ended up having to renegotiate because we had put the appraisal contingency in the sales contract, encouraged our buyers to include it. They then encouraged the builder to include it. And the appraisal did come in low, so we were able to help that buyer then bring the sales price down to help meet that appraised value.
That's amazing. Because otherwise they would have had to cover that cost.
Exactly. Yeah,
Wow.
exactly.
Wow. Another good reason is for having an agent is the inspection part of it, which is similar to what Ray was saying with getting these into the sales contract early, because a lot of buyers don't realize that an agent can help them to negotiate, to bring their own home inspectors to those inspections.
It's really important.
And you never think about it, but they're not going to catch their own mistake, especially when we know builders, for example, one field supervisor might be looking after 10 homes being built.
And they're overwhelmed.
They're overwhelmed. What is to say they missed something? And it's not to say it happens often, but if it does happen, I think you being reassured that you had your own inspector, somebody you paid for and represents you, on site, especially during, like, for example, the pre-drywall inspection.
Very important.
Where you see the wiring, you can see the electrical.
Probably one of the most, wouldn't you agree? It's probably one of the most important inspections.
Because if they can catch it early, it's much more affordable to fix at that point than after the house is already built and the drywall is up. So again, that's a really important thing, reason to have an agent on your side to talk you through these things. Are you thinking about all of that?
And some of the remedies, right, that can be
Exactly.
done
Exactly.
with the inspections
Yep.
that are done.
Yep. And another thing I just wanted to plug in for Ray mentioned in terms of the contract, another thing an agent can help you with is doing a CMA. We talked about a CMA in a previous video, so you can always go back into our video um, archives and you can find that we did really good comprehensive videos on CMAs. And an agent working for you can do that to ensure that what you're paying for that new home is similar to what other people are paying for that new home.
It's true, because you might think that this is going to be your forever home, but ultimately there's a good possibility that you're going to have to resell this property as well.
That's right.
Yeah. And along those lines, we talk about just the negotiations in the new home purchasing process. And many times it is, as you point out, that inspection point, or as you go through, and I've had situations in which that during the construction process, there actually have been mistakes that were found and that the builder acknowledged were mistakes, but they then convinced the buyer that they should just proceed along. So no matter if it had been included in the contract. And I had a situation again at one point where one of my clients, my buyers, were intent on having a very nice, like a tray ceiling in one of their family room areas. Beautiful ceiling that had been advocated, and actually the contract had specified this tray ceiling. It was fairly expensive to do, but unfortunately in the process, again, in some of the oversight issues, a different type of roof was placed on the home, which precluded the use or the installation of this tray ceiling.
Wow.
My buyers were devastated because they really were looking for
Yeah.
this. So we sat down, we spoke with the buyers for a while, came up with a plan, approached the builder, and ultimately the builder agreed to replace the entire roof structure on this one section of the house in order that a tray ceiling could be included. So it was just
That's
one of those
amazing.
points that perhaps you'd find interesting, that an agent can have that type of dialogue with the builder that you as a buyer may not even think about entering into.
That's amazing. That's a good story, Ray.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. I know you love my stories.
I do. Well, we hope that this video has been useful to you. I hope you understand the real value that a real estate specialist can bring to you during this process in actually safeguarding your investment. And I think that's vital. So you know what? We want you to call us if you or if anyone you know is interested in purchasing a new construction home. We would love to hear from you.
Please include us.
Yes, please include us. Put us to work for you. So until next time, take care.
We'll see you soon.
Bye.